Okay, we're in. Okay, so today, guys, we're going to talk about the importance of being in the zone. Just like from my experiences and speaking to a lot of athletes, they don't really understand what being in the zone exactly is. So, really, today's topic is about how do you guys both mentally and emotionally prepare yourself to be focused. And this is in training, but also in competition, because I assume it's different. It's not the same kind of element. So over to you guys. I'm very interested to know, firstly, how do you guys prepare before your competition?
Chris?
I think it's about preparation. I take lots of steps. Obviously, I live with a particular medical condition, which means I have to kind of get into a level of organisation, which almost is like that's the first sign of preparation for me. So I'm doing lots of things the day before, making sure I've got glucose levels right, making sure I've got food and planning right. It's the first. That's almost like the day before. It's almost like the starting to take it seriously. Like you're warming up towards what you're trying to get out of yourself on whether it's Saturday, Sunday, match day, midweek, whatever it looks like. And I just then that starts to get my mind focused by having that trigger, by having that like I need to do this. It starts to focus me towards right. I've got something that I want to play well in tomorrow. I've got a game, and from then on, I'm like I'm starting to think. I suppose of the evening start almost. I don't know if you do the same thing, Danny, but starting to think about the game and like rehearsing in your mind like what I'm going to do when the ball goes into certain positions. What am I going to start thinking about? How am I going to approach that situation? Because you know the kinds of situations you're going to face. You know your position. You know that kind of place for me on the court, you place on the pitch. You know where you're going to be, and you start thinking ahead about right. Who could I be up against as well? You know, sometimes you're going to know your opposition well. So you're starting to think, right, I know what he does well, or I know what they do well to try and stop me. What do I do well to get past them or make a difference on the game? And I always started, I tried to positively think about my strengths and, what I'm going to do. And then how do I impact on the game? What is it that I can do to really help my team? And that's always been my way. I try and build myself with belief, if you like, for the day before. Build the confidence. Start thinking about it. Start thinking what I'm going to do on the pitch. And obviously, I have loads of organisation which focuses my mind around that as well because of the nature of living with type 1 diabetes going into games. You have to kind of do that. So that's been a big part of, I suppose, how I approach it.
Yeah, I think similar. I mean, most of the time you're playing Saturday, Tuesday. So the moment one game's finished and you come down off that high, or the adrenaline goes down, you look into the next day training, and it's for me, your preparation is done in the week. So, right. So if you've got a game on a Tuesday, probably have Wednesday off, and then Thursday you're right. Okay, you've got Saturday in mind. So you start to put the building blocks in place. Anything you've not done well in the last game, you go and try and rectify on the training pitch. And so it gives you that feel good. It's all about the feel good factor, and then making sure you're prepared that when you put in any situation, you've done it that many times before, not just in your mind but in your body, that it's a very familiar situation and your subconscious takes over and you deal with it. I think one of the hardest things for me is when I found myself thinking on the pitch. You're thinking about you're running through on goal. It's a classic one. When you're confident, you're running through on goal, you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper. If you're confident, you go through. The first time you actually think is when you've run away and you've scored. When you're not so sure, you overanalyze everything. So you're looking at the goalkeeper, you're thinking which way is he going to go? Is there somebody behind you? So you're not actually focusing on the task that's at hand sometimes. Yeah. You're subconscious. And I think that's why training is so important, because you're running things through in your mind. As you mentioned there, Chris, imagery. Imagine running through scenarios in your mind. Even things like smells and sounds and things like that. When you're scoring goals, it's that sound hits the back of the net. If you do that repeatedly in training, it becomes second nature to you. And that's why when a striker goes for a long period without scoring a goal, they'll say go back to basics. What does it feel like to score a goal? What's the feeling? Relive those feelings. And I think preparation on that level is key. Mentally, is getting yourself in the right space. And then nutritionally as well. I think I was like that all the way through.
Right.
We were told pasta was the key,
Mm-hmm.
and breads and, you know, heavy carbs. So you load up on that 2 or 3 days before a game and the morning of a game, and you think, right, I'll have so much energy. And sometimes I go into a game and I was just heavy. And I was thinking, like that, I've slept well, I've ate well. But then you realise the older you get that certain foods agree with you better than others. You know, some will give you energy and some will take energy from you. And then I found that not eating carbs all the way through the week and then having maybe a little bit of carbs, a handful of rice on my plate on a Friday before a game, and then on a Friday night before the game, lunchtime and dinner, made me feel so much better. I got my energy from my veg and things like that. So yeah, it changes as you go along. And I think that the people that can prepare, that's why footballers are so superstitious. When you prepare a certain way and it goes well, the people who can do that and continually repeat it are the ones who can become successful. And sometimes it's hard because it's going so well, you forget what you actually did before the game. Then it becomes a thought process again. It's a funny one.
I just want to pull out on something what you've just said earlier on, in terms of when you're on the football pitch, you go to a stage where you're thinking too much because you're trained and programmed, learning a lot of technical, tactical ways, and you know the skills inside out because you've learned it for so many years. A lot of players think that you have to then start thinking like that when you go into competition. But one of the things that you've just mentioned about, and I'll refer back to being in the zone, is when someone starts to think a lot about certain things, the skills, or that is a phrase of going into the overthinking zone, and it can confuse a lot of your thoughts. So I like the fact that you just said about instinct feelings. What do you exactly mean by that, Danny? What do you mean by the instinct feelings is a better place to be in?
I think when you go back to when you were a kid and you're not clouded with loads of stuff in your mind, and you go on the playground and you just play football. You go on the street, you play football. You know, your mum calls you in for dinner. That breaks your in the zone, and that's what you're trying to replicate as an adult. It's no different, but you're older. You've got more thoughts. You've got a coach who's put coaches who put a lot of things into you during the week. So you're trying to, you know, if you're going to try and reproduce that, if it might not have gone in yet, or you've not got it right, but you go in thinking, oh, I've not quite got that, or I have quite got it. But the key to it for me is just, I'd say, being a kid. You know, be a kid, and you kids pick things up so easily, even if they fail. And the type of coach you have, the type of character you are. I remember Neil Warnock at Sheffield United. He just went, Webbs, I don't know what you do, just go and do it. And for me, that was like a breath of fresh air. So you go and enjoy yourself. Whereas his assistant now at Cardiff, Kevin Blackwell, he was on me all the time. Don't do this. I want you to run here. And he almost, if he could, he would have had his hand up my back and, you know, been like that on the pitch. And, you know, different characters respond to different things. But I think being creative, you've got to have somebody who says, okay, we've done that through the week. Now go and enjoy yourself. Go and express yourself. And it comes out naturally. But being in the zone to me is just being a kid.
What you're describing there is almost going into autopilot.
100%.
Right. So just letting your instincts and your feelings take control, and let that be the best. Well, that is probably the best place to be in. A lot of great champions can get into that place and know what that feels like. And that's probably why they can perform the best. But not everybody can do that, and not everybody has figured out exactly how to be an autopilot yet. So when they can't yet get into that position, what would you both say is probably the best advice in terms of having one thought, or what do you both think about when you can't actually get into that autopilot mode? What is your thoughts, and how do you calm that down?
I think, have you prepared for it? Have you prepared for being in that moment? You know, it's like, say, if somebody said to me now, come in and do what Stefan does, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If I was in that position, I could try and act it out, but it would go all wrong. So, you know, have you prepared for it? Do you know what you and are you confident that it's gone in? No different to GCSEs, no different to putting yourself on the stage. There's a preparation period and a revision that goes with it. That, you know, people who learn languages and any learning, you know, if you've learnt it, you know it.
Yeah.
You take an exhale, then you go, So walking as a kid, I've got a baby at the moment, he's just starting to learn to walk. You know, once you learn to walk, you don't ever think about walking again. God forbid something happens, but you know, you walk.
Right.
So I just think that's for me what it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's in the preparation. I've always felt with whatever it is, if I feel that I've walked into that situation and I've done everything beforehand to be prepared, it almost gives you that feeling of relaxation when you walk over and cross the white line, whatever it is, because you've got yourself in a position where actually you can turn to yourself in your mind in that moment and go, enjoy this, because it is in there. It is there. You've practiced this. You've learnt the tactics. You know, you've got your technique down. Whatever it looks like to you, it's almost like you've built it up. You've learnt it, and then in that final moment to get yourself in the zone. This is what I do to myself. Is I tell myself it's like, now relax, just chill now, because otherwise, if I go in there trying to overwork the thoughts around some of the tactics or whatever, that's when you don't get in the zone. I mean, you just got to try and allow yourself, and like Danny said, like, be a kid, like, relax and just go and try and enjoy it, because then you just find it just flows, and the things you learn come out. They just do, and that's the way I've always tried to do it. It's not easy, and like Danny said earlier about extra things and extra worries that you get into, especially as an adult, that you don't have as a kid. Those things come into your mind, whether you're on a bad run of form and things like that, and that can take your focus off just relaxing. But for me, it's always been about, if you're well prepared, and then you can I like to say, take the pressure off yourself in the moment by telling yourself repeatedly, you know, I'm ready for this. Then naturally, for me, I always seem to perform better like that.
I think it's important, like, to know that there is always pressure. You know, it exists, it's there. And I think one of the best things for me, and I watch with Cristiano Ronaldo, who's trained himself to be the best mentally, physically that he can be. And there's a difference when you watch people take penalties under pressure. Cristiano Ronaldo does something that some other people don't do. Most others don't do. Most other people will act like they're not affected by the pressure. So they still tense, but trying to act like it's not affecting you. Ronaldo's standing there and he'll go, and he blows it out, and he's showing that it's a pressure situation, but I back myself. So get rid of that feeling of pressure and then perform he trusts himself in the moment. And I just think that's dead important, because we all tighten up.
Yeah.
And how you deal with that tightening up. Some people it cripples them and they don't know what to do and they can't handle the feeling. And other people learn mechanisms to get rid of that feeling and just trust yourself. And it's about trusting what you know and backing yourself, really.
An interesting point, taking a penalty. Obviously, you feel a lot of pressure when you're in that situation. You've got so many people looking at you, not even that, but you've got TV as well. Every corner, everybody's staring at you. You're the only one, and it's 1 versus 1. Obviously, football's a team sport. When it comes to penalties, it's basically 1 versus 1 because it's you against the goalkeeper. What if you're finding it hard to be in that autopilot zone? What if you can't get into autopilot? What would you do?
I think that's the point where you're not in autopilot, where you're not. And it's like I just said, it's then dealing with it so that all the potential negative outcomes don't come into your mind.
Right.
Because they're there. So you go, God, what if the keeper goes that way? What if he goes that way? What if I miss? Oh my God, look at all those people behind.
Yeah.
Things that can come in. Or you can go, right, forget that. I'm going to pick my spot. If I score, I score. If I miss, I miss. And just, you've got to almost trivialize it a little bit and just back yourself and do it as if you would when you were a child.
Do you remember taking any big ones, Danny? Did you ever feel that and score or not score in that situation?
I missed a big pen. I missed a big pen against Chelsea for Sheffield United, and I remember Chelsea were flying at the time. It was when Mourinho was manager, and they were like flipping warriors, gladiators, and they came to Bramall Lane, and we got a pen. I grabbed the ball, which is your first sign of, I want it and I'm confident. Then the reality sets in that you're at the cop end at Sheffield United, and obviously flipping it, it's Chelsea. Okay, so I put the ball down, and I didn't really, if I'm honest, go, right, I'm going there and I'm going to do it properly. I kind of ran up to it and just let whatever happen. And I put it at a good height for the keeper. It was Hilario that was in net, actually. And Hilario went and dived and saved it. And I remember killing myself in my brain afterwards I sort of game faced it, fuming, but game faced it. I remember killing myself in my head afterwards, thinking, "That's poor, that's rubbish." They weren't the words I was using, but there you go. But like, I remember thinking, right, but then it's about being able to, what's the next moment? What can you do to rectify it? So you go on a campaign of trying to rectify it. What can I do? How can I make it better? And again, because that moment's gone, how can I make something better or be better in the next moment? Because I can never pull that moment back. So yeah, and I've missed some. I've scored some important ones. I've missed some, but I think more than anything, I think part of your character and proving to yourself you've got courage is going up to take another one, even though you've missed or scored, and then it's part and parcel.
One of the things that you mentioned about Ronaldo having him being able to have a breathing technique or be able to breathe out before he takes a penalty. Throughout your times, as well as Chris, what's worked for you guys? Has it been the same thing as Ronaldo, or have you guys tried out different things?
It's interesting because Danny said that, and I took a penalty this season, and it was same thing as what Danny described there at Chelsea. And obviously nowhere near the same scales or anything like that, but it was a big game. I was a skipper, and I picked the ball up, and we were winning 2-1. It was like a relegation battle game, so it was a big moment. And I was like, skipper, I'm going to pick this up. And then, just as Danny said, like the realization, you put it down. I know there's people in the crowd, the cameras watching, all that sort of stuff, and I go, right, I've got to do this. And I did exactly what you described Ronaldo did. I took 2 massive deep breaths and went, calm yourself.
Yeah.
And then I knew where I was going to put it. So I had that focus in my mind. Right. I always put the pens there. I don't always put the pens there, but there's a kind of a height thing that I like to try and futsal. You try and place it in a different position.
Yeah.
Because because it's quite close to the goal. You think if the goalie goes that way and he covers the whole goal, you need to be really quite precise. So I was like, right, that's where I'm going for. 2 massive deep breaths, ball down on the spot, and I went, right. And then calm, whistle blows, bang. Just focusing on striking it as well as you can. But it's that moment you switch from thinking to it's just kicking a ball. And literally, I was thinking, whistle blew, stop thinking, and it was you step up, stroked it in, and it was probably one of the better pens I've took. But it's 100% about that preparation beforehand and putting into some techniques, because as you said, Danny, that's probably one of the only times you start properly thinking about other things going on around you. You can be into autopilot all the time, like playing the game. I don't know about you, but I mean, you played on massive scales, but even when I played in front of decent sized crowds, I don't even really notice what the crowds are doing or saying, because you're just in there but that moment when you're about to take a pen, you do notice things like that. You do notice the sounds. You do notice what's going on, because you come out of it for a minute.
Yeah, you're right. And there's people who are all, people who've got stuff to say. Other opposition, don't bottle it. The little needle, all those little things. I tell you another thing just quickly at Sheffield United. I scored a goal at Cardiff that helped probably just get us over the line. The whole game had a stinker. It was like Good Friday, I think it was, and I'd had a nightmare all game in my head anyway. And 5 minutes before I scored the goal, I was playing against somebody I'd played with at Watford, Neil Cox, centre half, and Steve Cabra had come on and he cut the ball back to me, and it's 0-0, and I put one over the bar, and Coxie came up to me and went, flipping at Webbs, he said, you just blown Sheffield United's promotion. And I just went, leave off, Coxie. But in my head, I was like, right, I'm not having that. Not having it. So I was like, give me the ball. I want to do something. And then I picked up the ball on the left-hand side with the intention of going to go and do something. And then I got tackled. And I was like, flipping heck, it's not going well, and you're battling with your own mind. But then before I had a chance to think about it again, they went up the field, and their Cameron Jerome came off on the halfway line to lay it off. Laid it past his midfield and just laid it to me. Now I found myself without a moment to think, without a moment where I just ran, did what came naturally to me, and I scored. But the whole mental torture I was putting myself through that nobody would know before that, in the moment where I scored the goal, it was the moment where I didn't think about anything. The only thing I remember was running up the line and the lads and celebrating with Neil Warnock and the lads. And it's a really weird thing, because I spent most of the game thinking, all right, big game, we're nearly promoted, we need to do well. I so need to do well. I need to work hard. You know, the things that should come as a natural, but you're thinking it through. And the one moment that I wasn't really thinking, I wasn't given the ball by my own teammate. I wasn't expecting it. It just came natural, and we ended up scoring. So, yeah, being in the moment is key.
Yeah.
Getting there is the hardest thing for anybody, and I definitely challenge anybody who says different.
Of course, it takes time. It's something that you have to train consistently and find. But one thing that we can take away from here is how important autopilot is, and obviously it's a great place to be in, to you to perform to your best. And then you've got simplicity, so not making it too detailed, not overcomplicating it, and really simplifying your thought process if you're finding it so hard to be in autopilot. And then using strategies like breathing or a little bit of self-talk from yourself, as you mentioned, Chris, how you sometimes self-talk and use that. But okay, so those are the kind of things that we can take away from today. So before we finish off, I'm going to finish off with 5 quick